The following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. The naughty list. I should have known better than to play Santa, but bills don't pay themselves, and 3 months behind on rent has a way of making bad decisions look reasonable. That's what I told myself anyway. It was the same thing I'd said about the drinking, the gambling, every other mistake that led me to this moment. The Crossroads Mall was a madhouse on Christmas Eve, packed with last-minute shoppers clutching credit cards like lifelines. The place had seen better days. Most of the storefronts were empty now, their windows covered with brown paper and coming soon signs that had yellowed with age. 10 years ago, this was the crown jewel of downtown. Now, it was just another dying monument to better times, kept alive by nostalgia and the fact that the next nearest mall was 40 miles away. Tonight, the holiday decorations did a good job of covering up the building's wear and tear. Light strings bounced off the dirty floor tiles, illuminating the still air. Wall cracks were hidden under tinsel and garland, while big red bows concealed ceiling water stains. The broken fountain in the middle of the court was now a festive scene with moving reindeer and fake snow. I tugged at my fake beard, already sweating under the red suit. The polyester felt like it was suffocating me, and the padding made every movement a struggle. The entire outfit smelled of mothballs and desperation, with undertones of whoever had worn it for the morning shift. The beard itched, and the pillow strapped to my stomach had shifted sideways, giving me the appearance of a Santa who'd suffered a bizarre industrial accident. 1 more hour, then I could ditch this gig and hit O'Malley's. Maybe Sarah would be working tonight. She always gave me free drinks when Keith wasn't around to see. Said I reminded her of her brother. Another loser who couldn't get his life together, I imagined. But beggars can't be choosers, and the free whiskey helped quiet the voices, the memories. Next, called Amy, the teenage elf coordinator who seemed far too invested in her minimum wage job. She'd spent 20 minutes lecturing me about proper Santa protocol when I showed up late, nursing a hangover that made her voice feel like ice picks in my temples. "Remember to smile," she hissed as she passed. The last Santa got fired for making a kid cry. A little girl climbed onto my lap, all pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. Her dress was immaculate. Red velvet with white lace trim, the kind of outfit that screamed, "Daddy's credit card has no limit." Or used to anyway. Something about her seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it, like I'd glimpsed her face in a fever dream. "What's your name?" I asked, forcing cheer into my voice. The script was simple enough. Name, age, what do you want? Smile for the camera, next. Even I couldn't screw that up, or so I thought. "Emma," she said sweetly. "I'm 6. Her voice sent a shiver down my spine, though I couldn't say why. It was perfectly normal, the high-pitched tone of a young child, but something in it resonated wrongly, like a tuning fork struck at the wrong frequency. "And what do you want for Christmas, Emma?" She leaned close, her breath smelling of peppermint and something else, something metallic, like pennies, like blood. "I want you to suffer, Jack Williams, like my daddy did." I blinked, cold sweat suddenly soaking through my costume. "What?" Her eyes turned black, her pupil and iris swallowed by inky darkness. Not just dark, they were voids, windows into something that shouldn't exist. "You killed him, March 15th, corner of Pine and Madison. You were drunk again. He was just walking home from his second job, the one he took to buy me this dress." My blood ran cold, and the hit and run, the one I never reported, the dented fender I'd fixed in cash at Miguel's body shop. There had been nothing in the news. I thought he'd survived. I'd driven past the next day, but there was nothing. No police, no ambulance, just a broken umbrella in the gutter. "You left him there," Emma whispered, her small fingers digging into my arm with impossible strength. "He took 2 hours to die. alone, in the rain, calling for help on a phone with a cracked screen, trying to reach mom one last time, and now you sit here pretending to be something pure, something good, wearing a suit as red as the blood you washed off your car. Before I could react, she was gone, skipping back to a woman in a black dress. The woman turned, and for a moment, I saw through her face, like looking through a window into an empty room. Beyond her, through the mall's skylights, the sun seemed to dim, as if something vast had passed between it and the earth. I sat there, stunned, as the next kid was ushered forward. A boy, maybe 8, wearing a Christmas sweater with reindeer prancing across the front. The reindeer's eyes seemed to follow me, their embroidered hooves leaving bloody tracks across the wool. "I want a Nintendo Switch," he said, then leaned in close. His eyes held the same bottomless darkness as Emma's. "And I want to watch you burn." June 12th, the apartment fire on Oak Street. You dropped your cigarette on the couch after passing out. 3 people died, I was one of them. My hands began to shake. I didn't remember much from that night. The insurance had paid out enough to cover most of my gambling debts. I'd told myself no one was hurt, just smoke damage, maybe some lost belongings. The newspaper said differently, but I stopped reading after the first paragraph. Stopped watching the news when they showed the families crying. Drowned the guilt in bourbon until the memories blurred. The rest of my shift passed in a nightmare blur. Each child seemed wrong. They all knew. All whispered dates, times, sins I'd tried to forget. A litany of crimes stretching back years, each one accompanied by eyes that flickered to solid black when the parents weren't looking. Parents whose faces seemed to slip, revealing emptiness beneath. A girl with butterfly clips in her hair reminded me of the hit and run in Cincinnati, back when I was still driving truck routes. A boy in a Lakers jersey knew about the convenience store robbery that ended with the clerk having a heart attack. Twins in matching Christmas dresses spoke in unison about the insurance scam that burned down my uncle's warehouse, with inventory still inside, with the night watchman still inside. They knew everything, every dark secret, every crime I'd talked my way out of, every sin I'd buried under layers of alcohol and denial. And their parents weren't parents at all. Each time I looked up, I saw more of them. Standing at the edges of the Christmas display, watching with faces that weren't faces. The woman in the black dress moved among them, whispering, and wherever she passed, the reality seemed to thin. Finally, mercifully, my shift ended. I changed quickly, my trembling hands struggling with the buttons as I stuffed the Santa suit into my bag. It felt heavier than before, and something dark had seeped through the white fur trim, something that smelled like old pennies. The mall was closing, last call announcements echoing through nearly empty corridors. The voice on the PA system seemed distorted, words stretching and warping until they became meaningless sounds. The Christmas music playing softly through the speakers had changed too, minor key now, discordant like holiday songs played backward at half speed. I hurried toward the exit, keys clutched like brass knuckles between my fingers. Past the darkened storefronts, their windows now reflecting things that couldn't be there. Faces, bodies, crime scenes I'd walked away from. In the GameStop window, a TV display played security footage of accidents I'd caused. The mannequins in Macy's wore clothes from people I'd hurt, stained and torn in familiar patterns. The lights flickered, then went out. Darkness engulfed me, but not normal darkness. This was alive, hungry, pressing against my skin like cold fingers. Giggles, soft at first, then growing louder, coming from every direction. The sound of small feet on tile, circling, the click of dress shoes, the scuff of sneakers, the tap of patent leather Mary Janes. A whole congregation of children moving in the dark. I fumbled for my phone, switching on the flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing more children, dozens of them, surrounding me in a circle. Their eyes gleamed in the light, reflecting like animals. No, not reflecting, generating their own light, pinpricks of hellfire in the darkness. Each one a victim, a witness, a life I'd ruined or ended through carelessness or greed or simple human meanness. Ho ho ho, they chanted in unison, their voices a discordant chorus that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. Here comes Santa Claus. I recognized them all now. The teenage boy I'd sold bad pills to at a concert, his nose still bleeding from his final seizure. The old woman I'd scammed out of her pension, her neck bent at the angle it took when she'd hung herself. The homeless man I'd kicked out of my building's doorway on the coldest night of the year, his fingers and toes still black with frostbite. All wearing children's bodies like ill-fitting suits, their true faces shimmering beneath the surface like fish under the ice. "Stay back," I croaked, my voice cracking. "This isn't funny." They advanced, their small hands reaching for me. Hands that weren't hands at all, but twisted things of bone and shadow. Fingers too long, too jointed, tipped with something darker than the nail. I turned to run, but my foot caught on something, a candy cane that moved like a snake, its stripes writhing as it wrapped around my ankle. I went down hard, my phone skittering across the floor. The screen cracked, the light flickering wildly, casting jumping shadows on the walls. In the stuttering illumination, I saw the children's true forms. Hollow things, puppet bodies piloted by spirits of vengeance and judgment. Tiny fingers grabbed at my clothes, my hair. Each touch burned like dry ice, leaving blisters in the shape of accusations. Murderer, thief, liar. I thrashed, attempting to shake them off, but there were too many. They dragged me down, their combined weight pinning me to the cold tile. The floor beneath me seemed to soften, to give way as if I were sinking into a grave. Emma appeared, looming over me. In her hand, she held a candy cane. Its end had been sharpened to a wicked point, striped red and white like arterial spray on bone. Her dress was wet now, soaked through with rain from that March night. Water dripped from her pigtails, but where it hit my face, it burned like acid. "You've been lying to children for years," she said, her voice a guttural growl that echoed with her father's last breaths, the sound of ragged breathing, of lungs filling with rain. "Selling false hope, empty promises, just like you lied to the police, to the insurance companies, to yourself. Did you know Daddy was still alive when you drove away, still calling for help? He saw your license plate, you know, tried to tell the 911 operator, but you were already changing it by then, weren't you?" The other children took up the chant. Liar, fraud, naughty. Their faces flickered between youth and death, innocence and accusation. Each one bore the marks of their endings, the bruises, the burns, the broken bones I'd given them. "Please," I gasped, tasting blood and peppermint. "I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I'll confess. Turn myself in." Emma smiled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Behind her, I saw the woman in the black dress approaching. Her face was gone now, replaced by a void that hurt my eyes to look at. In that emptiness, I saw flashes of what awaited me. An eternity of endings, of last moments played out again and again. "Oh, Jack," Emma said, her voice harmonizing with a dozen others. The voice of her father, of all fathers, of judgment itself. "You'll do everything, but first you'll suffer, like they suffered, like we all suffered, and then you'll take his place wearing the red suit forever, bringing gifts of justice to all the other monsters who think they've gotten away with it." The candy cane plunged downward. Pain exploded in my chest as peppermint and copper filled my mouth. Each child came forward, their own candy weapons raised. Death by 1,000 Christmas cuts. The children began to sing, their voices carrying the weight of eternal judgment. "You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is hunting you down." As darkness closed in, I heard sleigh bells, a deep, booming laugh that shook the very foundations of the mall. The sound of hooves on the roof, of ancient things coming to collect their due. Through the skylights, I saw a sleigh silhouetted against the moon, pulled by things that were definitely not reindeer. "Ho, ho, ho," it said, its voice the sound of avalanches and winter storms. "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." The children's laughter was the last thing I heard. Their small hands ripped and peeled me apart. Each touch was a memory of the pain I'd caused, each giggle a scream I'd ignored. And somewhere in a cemetery across town, fresh snow began to fall on a row of small gravestones. Emma Sullivan, 2016 to 2022, beloved daughter, may justice find those who walk free. Michael Chandler, 2014 to 2022, forever 8, justice comes to all. Nina Martin, 2015 to 2022. Angels watch over us. Even Santa must pay for his sins. The mall opens as usual on the day after Christmas. There's a "Help Wanted" sign in the window of the Santa display. The suit is clean, though some say the white fur trim is stained with something that won't wash out. The position has a high turnover rate, but the children keep coming. And somewhere in the night, a sleigh flies on. Its driver wears a familiar face, stretched tight over something ancient and cold. The bells jingle with every soul collected. Christmas comes but once a year. Justice is eternal. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.